Republicans are sending the message that diversity, equity, and inclusion programs are not welcome in the state. Our Missouri Capitol reporter, Hannah Falcon, breaks down the way their latest efforts affect Missourians.
Efforts coming from multiple branches of the Missouri government today to dismantle DEI programs across the state. This has been a growing trend among Missouri Republicans.
We want more diversity, we want diversity of thought, though, as well.
St. Louis County Republican Senator Ben Brown presents his bill to get rid of DEI in the hiring process for universities and colleges today. He believes forcing DEI statements and policies on people is getting rid of diverse ideologies in higher education.
This diverts faculty energy away from teaching and research and places it more on political indoctrination.
This is only the latest effort to get rid of DEI in higher education. Republicans added language to the state budget promising to cut off state funds if colleges or universities continue DEI programs. Many universities and colleges that receive public funds from the state have already dismantled DEI departments and programs in anticipation of these efforts, including the University of Missouri and Missouri State University.
Tax on DEI are tax on women, people of color, people with disabilities.
Columbia Democratic Representative David Tyson Smith says DEI does not take away merit-based hiring.
But it just opens a door to get people in.
It's not just higher education. Attorney General Andrew Bailey sent a letter demanding the country's leading companies abandon DEI practices today. Bailey is joined by 14 other states in, quote, fighting to protect working Americans and investors from these woke political trends and blatant racial discrimination, end quote. He threatened legal action if the DEI practices do not stop. He has already filed lawsuits against Starbucks and IBM. Reporting in Jefferson City, I'm Hannah Falcon.